How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
What is up, everybody? Another week, another episode of Story of the Fight. We got Andrew Toste filling in for Ramiro here. He's got a fight coming up that we will talk about towards the end of the episode. But this week, we had another Apex event. We had UFC Vegas 89, Thug Rose versus Amanda Ribas. Some other fights that most people have never heard of was on this card, but we're going to talk about it because it was very fun. For the wrong reasons, maybe, but it's definitely an interesting card, so it's something to talk about. But before that, please do all the like, the subscribe, all that stuff. We are at 11,996. We are 4 away from 12,000. So if we could hit 12,000 during this episode, that would be sick. If you don't like watching on YouTube, we're on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Instagram, everywhere podcasts are found, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you can go to find podcasts. We're there. Storyofthefight.com if you want the Pride shirt, if you want the Street Fighter shirt, if you want the hoodie. There's some merch on there. There's also Andrew Toste shirt on there. If you want to grab that to support Toasty in his fight that's upcoming. Shout out Regens here, where the mom's at. The moms should be watching. We need 4 more to subscribe, so let's do that. Regens says we need 4 moms. We do indeed. But yeah, UFC Vegas 89. If you want to follow Andrew, what's your Instagram, Andrew? What's the best place for people to find you?
I'm usually on my Instagram. Toasty MMA is where I'm at on most social medias.
What a name! What a great name! All right, let's go ahead and move in. Thank you, Toasty, for filling in for Ramiro. Ramiro's got dad duties. So we
Who gets
are
a family, bro? Like, come on.
I know, dude.
There's
Like, what
fights.
about me? What about me?
Yeah.
Am I not family? All right. So we can move on. We'll start with Thug Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas at flyweight. Rose is no longer at strawweight. Amanda is fighting in both. So it's a pretty good little matchup between the two. Going into this, who did you have? Did you feel confident in a pick on this one?
I didn't feel, yeah, I think that's more where I was at. Like, neither pick would have been like confident. Like, Rose feels like anything can happen, especially with the last fight with like her hand, her finger and her hand and everything going on. Like, it just feels like there's always like some reason she didn't do whatever it is she wanted to do or get the game plan going. So like that's where I'm at with Rose. And then Amanda is like she comes in hot or cold. Like some days she looks like she could kill anybody. I think she looks like a cat. She fights like a cat.
Yeah, dude. She, those little things like the hand puppets that like punch.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, she looks
Exactly.
like that.
But like some days she comes in, she looks like somebody stole her rent money and she's trying to kill you. And then the other day she looks like it's just like another sparring day. And that's kind of where she was at today. It was kind of looked like she was trying to make it intense, but the whole time it just felt like it was like another day of sparring.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like I feel like Amanda needs to kind of make it like a scrappy fight, especially against somebody like Thug Rose, because she's so good at staying on the outside and moving in and out. Her distance management is good.
Yeah.
Amanda came out southpaw, and Rose in the open stance. It's one of those things where if you're right-handed and you're normally an orthodox, that's your power hand, right? Your rear hand, your power hand. And then if you're a right-handed southpaw, if you switch, now your jab is like money because it's your dominant hand, right? But your defense kind of fails, and it's like a lot of people when they switch stances, they understand the offense side of it, and they don't quite understand the defense side of it. With like what new options your opponent has when you switch stances, and that's kind of like if we're gonna say the story of the fight. For me, it was when they were in open stance. Rose was leading with her right hand or her left hand if she was southpaw. So her rear hand she was leading with and landing, and then when they're in a closed stance, she's landing on the lead with her lead hand with the jab, things like that. And it's like those little things like just show you like the understanding of the game that Rose has versus somebody like Amanda, Amanda can get into a scrap. And like you said, sometimes she looks like ultra aggressive and she lands all these crazy stuff, but it's usually in like these wild kind of fights. Whereas Rose, because of the Trevor Whitman tutelage, who wasn't there, but she came up with him, you can see she has like a real understanding of the striking game. And I feel like that was kind of the difference maker in this one. If that makes sense. HLB Comer says this fight should have been 2 rounds tops. As it went on, it got worse. That's for sure. The first 2 rounds I actually thought were fun. Just because there was cool stance moments where they're figuring out the stance. HLB Comer says, did she even score a knockdown? I don't think so, but I might have been asleep. How do you knock out Ribas? Yeah, I don't think she really hurt her ever. Because a lot of the time she would crack her and then she wouldn't follow up. She'd reset.
I think she was trying to win the fight on like making Amanda miss more than anything else. Like she was trying to show up like, she definitely did. Like she's one of the few girls that like truly understand distance. It's not like Michelle Watterson is an example I use all the time where like she keeps distance. Well, like, you're 12 feet that way. Like, of course you're not going to get hit. Like like don't throw at like nothing. Exactly. So like Doug knows distance management. She was definitely using it a lot, but like this isn't boxing. You're not going to win on defense like you can in boxing. Like you got to go out there and prove that you want to win that fight. And she didn't do that at all.
There was some cool grappling moments that I liked in this fight. Amanda Ribas is just like textbook women's MMA head and arm throw all the time. Let's actually keep it right here, Rich, for a sec. I mean, and she tries the head and arm throw the first time. Rose rolls through it, ends up on top in side control. And you're like, all right, maybe don't do that. She tries it again. Rose doesn't move forward. She stays back in it. And then all of a sudden she has her back. Amanda Victor rolls for the leg lock. I thought that was really cool. That's a cool little move to do if you do miss the head and arm throw. If you don't get to actually get the leverage on it and you just kind of slip over, then you can just use that same momentum, roll down for the leg lock. Rose was hip to it. That's not really going to work at the top level, but it was cool to see at least. She had the body lock.
As like creating distance, but she didn't do anything after that. She kind of like, oh, this didn't work. Let me just sit here then.
Yeah, and this time here, this was a cool sequence in the third round where Ribas tried to hit like a whizzer kick, didn't get it, but then instead just kept going with it and lands a cool trip into like scarf hold position, which should be the next picture. If Rich is on it. There we go. So she lands in scarf hold position, which is dangerous, right? But the threat is, if you look at the top leg of Thug Rose, so her right leg, she wants to get her hips up against the back of Ribas and take her right leg and put it over the top of Ribas's right leg, because that'll get a hook in and she can come out the bottom and stay on her back, right? Ribas recognized that, and as soon as Rose crept in with her hips to try to do that, she switches. Instead of trying to turn into her left, Ribas on top, she goes across her own body to stop her from getting that leg over, and then she ends up in side control, which I think we should have a picture of her going across her own body. That's sick. That's cool grappling. The fight might have sucked, but there was cool things in it, and I love that takedown to scarf hold to going across your body into side control. That was tight.
It just sucked that we had to get through 4 rounds of what we had to get through to get to this one singular moment that you pulled out of your head today, Will.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate your candor here, but this is what the fight was.
Yeah, this was the coolest part of the fight for me. Yeah. HLB Comer says, also, question to TMZ Will. Did she talk about what happened to Whitman? Where is the jolly weirdo? She has not. She's obviously Pat Barry's still in the corner. He'll always be in the corner, but I think there must have been some dispute on what was next for Rose and the type of fights she should be trying to impose. And I think probably Whitman removed himself. I don't think they got rid of him. he's the kind of guy who fighters can't just go train with Whitman. He has to like pick fighters to train.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, it could just like this is all spec. It could just be like a scheduling thing. Like every other time they fought in their corner, it's always been like Usman, Gaethje, Rose, all on the same card. So it's very easy for him to be in all the corners. Whereas like Gaethje's getting ready for his fight, Kamaru's still sitting in limbo. Rose is fighting 3 weeks away from that card. So it might be just like a scheduling thing where he needs to be somewhere else instead of where she is.
But I don't think he was in the Furo fight either. I don't think he was there for that. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like I remember him not being there. But yeah, this was the round that I gave to Ribas. I gave Thug Rose every other round, but round 3 I gave to Ribas. There was a cool takedown. I like this grappling. She ends up Rose tries to hip out because they end up in half guard. She tries to hip out to go to a single leg to get up from half guard. In doing so, when she gets to her knees, Ribas takes her back, hits her a couple times, the round's over. But it was a cool sequence to end that round. And then round 4 started, and it was back to Rose kind of picking her off from the distance, making Amanda miss. Amanda starts throwing spinning kicks and spinning back fists that are a mile away, and Rose just kind of cements it, I think, picking her apart. I saw people saying this was a robbery. I thought it was a clear 4 rounds to 1 for Rose.
They clearly fell in the trap of what Ribas was trying to do at the end of every single round, where she tried to, I won the round! I won the round!
It's like, dude, you were on bottom for 2.5 minutes that round. But Thug Rose gets the win. I don't know what's next for her. She's at a new weight class. HW Comer says it was a robbery of our time. Couldn't agree more. I actually went back and rewatched it this morning, so it was a double robbery for me.
I skipped that one this morning.
But I had to get cool screenshots of cool transitions that I liked in it, so it was worth it for that, I guess. Otherwise, we would talk about this fight for 2 minutes and move on. But I don't know what Rose does next. Furo versus Blanchfield is next week, and that's probably a title eliminator fight. Maybe she fights the loser of that. If Furo wins, Blanchfield versus Rose would be a good matchup, I think. I don't know if they do a rematch if Furo loses.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think you do the rematch right away. I think you give them some time. But at the same time, this is what the UFC does when they don't sign people for the weight class. When you got like 7 people, you don't even have enough for a top 10. What are you doing?
And Ribas is fighting in this and strawweight. And so is Andrade. Andrade is also a tweener. And it's like, maybe you do the rematch of that. You do the trilogy. Yeah, maybe you do the Rose Andrade trilogy. But I don't know. Maybe do Macy Barber.
Just do round robin. Just have them all just go against each other over and over and over.
You could do that. I actually, I will continue to look. This might sound stupid, but I will look forward to Rose fights still because I do like her understanding. It is cool to have fighters. It might be boring compared to what she used to do, but I do like to have fighters who are like, you can see that kind of understanding with stance switches and what to lead with, what to counter with in each stance, depending on the match. Like I do like when that exists. I'm glad that does exist, especially in a division where it's really rare to see. It might not lead to super exciting fights, but it is fun to
appreciate.
Yeah. But that's kind of it. We could move on to the banger of a co-main event.
Which one did you watch? Because it was not on the card that I was watching.
We got Karl Williams versus Justin Tafa. Look,
I think they would have been better off if Tafa had just fought sick a couple weeks ago and let his brother fight here. We would have all been better off.
Well, that's the crazy thing. So, Justin Tafa, what was that? That was when was that? That was February 17th. Junior Tafa, the brother of Justin, was supposed to fight Karl Williams on this card.
Little brother, right?
Yeah, little brother, younger brother. Better brother? I don't know. In February, Justin Tafa was supposed to fight De Lima. He pulls out like the day before, or the day of weigh-ins. Yeah, the day before.
It was the day of the fight, I think. Or no, the night in between. It was after weigh-ins, the night in between.
Yeah, and then so Junior's like, "I'll do it. It's heavyweight. I don't have to cut weight." So he steps in for his brother last month, and he gets finished. And then
Smoked.
yeah, and so they're like, "What is Carl Williams gonna do?" He just lost his fight, and then he got smoked. So it's not like they're gonna rebook it. And then Justin's like, "I'll take my brother's spot. He took my spot. I'll take his spot." And then they both ended up losing.
Yes.
Um, but real quick,
Convincingly.
shout out Ramiro in the chat. Can't be here on the show, but he's here in the chat. Said had to hop on real quick to shout out HLB Comer. You're a real one. All right, back to dadding. And fun fact, that's actually a picture of Ramiro in the profile there. That is not Hasbulla with a fade. But also looking forward to the next Toasty fight. That's going to be fun. But this fight, back to this fight. Justin Tafa, he's got nukes in his hands. I really like his lead hand that he works with. He'll throw the jab and then the hook off the same side, back to back. He'll double up with the right hand when he's southpaw. If I were a heavyweight striker, I would do everything in my power to never fight at the apex because they're too big to fight grapplers in the small cage. It just
it's like
not
2 steps and you're already on the cage. Like you got no distance to move at all.
Yeah. So if you're a striker and you're a heavyweight, you're that big. It's like I would just never fight there. But early on, he cracks Carl Williams with some good shots. I liked his left body kick. The left hand was good. Like I said, his lead hand work was good. He just got a little too reckless in the pocket because every time he would extend his combination, Carl Williams would just grab a leg and dump him. And then he would.
Well, it was also like he would engage his like hips. Like he would.
Yeah.
He was doing fine at distance and like picking at him. All his punches were hurting and like they were all connecting. But then for some inexplicable reason, you throw a knee
high kick or a knee, yeah.
Like you throw a knee that's so high you literally lift yourself off the floor. Like all he's got to do is like burp on you and you'll fall over.
Yeah,
like,
and it happened with the high kick too.
Exactly. Yeah.
It looked like he couldn't get it over the shoulder.
It's inexplicable. You have all this power in your hands. Why are you even throwing your legs? Keep them planted and throw your hands.
I like the body kick, but the high kick is a reach, literally because he couldn't get it up over the shoulder.
Yeah.
But there was also some weird like up against the fence, just like basic fence takedown defense that wasn't happening. I think there's a picture of his leg position. See, I had to grab screenshots from the fight because there's literally no pictures of the grappling other than that one takedown. But there should be a picture. Okay, in the third round, he starts cracking Carl Williams. He hits him with this uppercut as he ducks for the takedown. He goes back to the well a couple times, but there's a point where Carl Williams gets cracked. He's kind of wobbly. He clinches to try to maybe get a trip or something, and his legs completely go out from under him and shoot backwards. And you're like, here we go. Tafa might get the finish here. And he just stayed engaged too long instead of separating to reset and land some more shots. And this right here, this is the entry, by the way. This is not, I'm about to get taken down after he worked on the single leg. This is my defense up against the fence.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, Carl Williams just reaches down for the leg, the single leg. Normally, you have to work for a single leg. In this position, though, he just got cracked a couple times. Tafa, instead of splitting his legs up against the fence, you want to separate them so they can't have your hands clasped. Instead, he stands there with his knees together and starts trying to land more punches. And Carl Williams like, I'll just lean into you now because you're gonna fall because your legs are together.
And then
it was just like
probably throw it to people, so he's like, I'm just gonna fall back and try to like suplex you. And bro, it's a heavyweight. He's not gonna roll over like that.
No. It was frustrating to watch. But I mean, props to Williams. He tried to get that arm triangle in the second round, I think it was. He did what he had to do to get the win, but it was frustrating to see Tafa, like you said, at the start, he was doing a good job of landing like one or two shots and then separating and then just not getting into that clinch space, and then it just kind of all went out the window. There was also a point where he defended a single leg, and instead of just ripping his leg out when he was standing and Karl was on his knees, instead of like whipping it, he tried to punch him more. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you got to pull that leg out and then just circle away. Make him get up. It's hard to get up in the third round off your knees after a failed attempt, after you just got uppercutted. Like, make him work to get back up because he's a heavyweight. I mean, your legs gas. Getting up off your knees after grappling exchanges is not the same as just standing up regularly, you know? So it was
Especially
frustrating.
people who weigh less than 200 pounds.
Yeah. And if you're 260 in there, whatever you weighed in at, I'm not sure. It was frustrating. As a Tafa fan, it was frustrating. What did Williams weigh in at? Williams weighed in at 246.
What's crazy is like it's never anything different. Like it's not like you're going back to the drawing board, coming back with something new, and like getting a different answer. It's like it's always the same thing. It's always you need to be more defensively sound in your wrestling. Your punches hurt. You're gonna hurt somebody. If you just make the fight last long enough standing up, you can get your wins. You just need to like stop.
You can't force it.
Stop thinking. Yeah, and you can't think that the situation's just going to end itself. Like there were a couple of times, especially at the end, where he rocked him, where like Williams is trying to engage on wrestling, and like Tafa turns on him, and he's like, "Okay, I've kind of squared up," and then his arms are like right against him, and instead of just pushing out and getting distance, he's like, "All right, we've ended wrestling," and Williams is like, "Nope, I'm just going to duck down and take your leg again." It's like, come on, you got to keep going.
You got to keep going. You got to disengage. You're not out until you're out. It's the same thing with striking. Like you can't just throw your punches and stay there. You have to exit. Dean Thomas said a couple weeks ago, he's like, your combination does not end until you exit. And if you're not exiting, what are you doing? And it's the same thing for grappling exchanges. It's the same thing for everything, right? You have to disengage. You have to end the engagement. Otherwise, you're there for their engagement. It's seriously like the most simple thing, but I know, and you can speak to this, in the fight, it's very different than watching it outside of the fight. But at the highest level in the UFC, that should be something that you can recognize mid-fight.
Also, it's like I hear that all the time. It's like even from like the commentators in the UFC, like Dom and Bisping always love to say at the end of everything they have to say is like, "Oh, it's always easier said than done." It's like, but that doesn't change the answer. Like the answer is still to do that thing. It doesn't matter how tired you are. You still got to do what the answer is to get it done. So, like, regardless of whether or not you have the energy to do it, that is what you needed to do to get up. So that's what you need to do. Like, figure out what you need to do to get the energy to do that thing.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not what you need to do. Everything's hard. All the fight's hard. There's no
if it was easy, we would go do something else.
Yeah. All right. That's enough on the co-main event. We can go on to the feature bout. It was Edmen Shahbazyan versus AJ Dobson.
Hey, good fights. Yay. We're here.
We got a little bang here. This was a little bit of some of my favorite fights are the call an ambulance, but not for me.
I love
this. This was one of them. Fight starts. Edmen's just standing right in front of him, not moving laterally, not moving his head
at all. Looking like a Dobson.
AJ Dobson's like with his straight punches. He's doing the double jab to straight. He's just throwing 1-2, 1-2, 1-2.
His movement was fantastic. He was like in and out. Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was great. Edmen, he's like, okay, this is a little bit annoying to deal with. He ends up landing a left, so just like Tafa. He goes jab, left hook, and it's nice. And you're like, ooh, that's a nice weapon. I love when people double up or go off rhythm, and it's not just left, right, left, right, left, right. And then they separate. He goes in again to try to do the same exact thing, but he does it lazy. And AJ cracks him in the middle of that combination because he throws the left hand and then throws the left hook, and his right hand is right there. And he gets cracked. And you see him on skates. He's wobbly. His
face turned as red as his hair.
Yeah. It's a very cool moment where while he's hurt, he shoots in. AJ gets him like a front headlock position, hits him with the knee, lets him go, and then left hook. It was a cool sequence to make him pay for a lazy shot, basically, and just to add insult to injury while he's already rocked. But then, as you can see here, again, no pictures of the grappling. Edmen lands a cool body lock inside trip, ends up on top. AJ reverses it. Edmen tries to take his back. AJ reverses it, ends up on top. They get back up, and you're like, man, has Edmen recovered? And then he cracks AJ with a left hook, and he falls back, and you're like, what even hit him? Because it was kind of a weird little, like, it wasn't like a clean combination. They were kind of just in the mix, you know? AJ goes down. Edmen jumps on him, and then kind of puts him out. You can see him looking up in the rafters.
Yeah, there was like 2 times where he got hit, and then he kind of came back to life, and then got hit again and was like...
You see his eyes were like up in the... I mean, he was not there.
I had enough time to say out loud, oh, he's unconscious. And then the ref jumped in.
Yeah. HB Comer says there was a sneaky body shot in there too. I missed that. I'll have to rewatch that. This was one that I did not rewatch.
I also agree with HB Comer. Yeah, that rib is so weird to look at every time he raises his arms. I'm like, ooh, that's weird.
It looks like an injury, man. Like we've seen people where you just see that happen in the fight and you're like, oh, but that's just boy's built like that, you know?
It's like what's that heavyweight with that giant like dent in the middle of his chest?
There was God, he's an AKA guy too.
Blagoyev?
Blagoy Ivanov. Yeah, he got stabbed in the heart. Jesus Christ.
Go.
Yeah. You know who else? This is gonna be an old reference. Who had a very strange body type was George Soteropoulos. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, dude, that's hella
weird, like short torso with big rib cage or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he had a condition, and I shouldn't be making fun of it. Who knows?
Moving on.
Edmen.
Moving on.
Yeah, Edmen gets back in the win column. It was a fun fight. Just a firefight back and forth. Let's see if he can string 2 together.
Glad to hear him fight and then not reference, like maybe more than once, that Ronda Rousey is basically his mother. Like, I'm glad that we're past this.
This is Ronda's protege. It's like, hey, I'm my own guy too.
He's also fought out of her gym, like not at her gym, like for the past 3 fights. We can move on, guys.
Yeah, we can move on. He did a good job in this fight. I don't know what his ceiling is, to be honest, just because he's had so many downs. I don't know if he can really come back from that and put on like a real run. But even the fights he loses, they're usually fun, you know?
I think his talent ceiling's pretty high. I think it's all mental. Like a lot of it is like him looking down on himself, like not being undefeated, not being like the perfect example or protege of what he was supposed to be. I think if he gets past that, I think his ceiling's really high.
Yeah, and I think he just has these weird mental lapses. Like the same thing, he lands that jab to left hook, and it's like, nice. And then he tries it immediately again, but he does it way slower and less effort, and he gets cracked. And then later on in the fight, he also tried to do like literally like a dead weight takedown. And it's just like, dude, it's not going to work. You cannot do that. And a better grappler would have put him on his back.
Yeah.
But, you know, here we are. He got the win. So good for him. We can move on. This was a very fun fight. We got the battle of the prospects. Payton Talbott versus Cameron Saaiman.
Yeah, this was a good fight.
Talbott is the truth.
Yeah.
Saaiman
came from A1 too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And Saaiman is very good in his own right. He might be a flyweight, Cameron. He looked very small in this fight against Talbot. And both these guys, hot prospects, they're young, they're on the come up. They've both showcased really cool tool sets and ability, and have very high ceilings. Talbot had kind of some issues with the grappling a little bit early in his last fight, but then he ended up getting the win. And so it was like, all right, cool. He can fight through that. In this fight, this was the fight that I was looking forward to the most. And it ended up being a beatdown.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be competitive to be entertaining.
No, I thought it was going to be a very cool showcase for both guys to have very cool, like really show off their skill set. And early on, I thought Cameron actually, same thing with Rose. he's somebody that really understands the open stance versus closed stance and what are your options in each of those stances. And I liked his open side high kicks, his open side body kicks. I liked when they crossed, he was landing more with the jab, or when they're closed stance, but it just didn't matter. You could have like that knowledge,
But you can't make reads if you're on the back foot the whole time. Like you can't implement any of that stuff if like the whole time. Like Talbot from the first spell was like, I'm gonna go forward. I don't care. Like there was a couple of times where Saaiman like kind of crashed into him and they like almost came against the cage. And even then Talbot like shoved him off and I think they commented like, oh, he's big brothering him. It's like, yeah, the whole fight is just like, I'm gonna go forward. I don't care if you're there. I'm going to be there. And you're either gonna go back or you're gonna go sideways, but I'm going forward.
Yeah, there was a point where he lands in the closed stance. He lands a 1-2 early, like 30 seconds in, maybe 45 seconds in or something like that. And it makes Cameron fade away. And you're like, oh, he's got the power advantage for sure. And Cameron did land some good shots, but it just didn't affect him whatsoever. And there were too few. But like I was saying, like you can have the understanding of the stance matchups and what works, what does that. But that doesn't, you don't just automatically win because you understand that. You know, it's a whole nother game to implement it. And there's another guy who is trying to implement his game and it could throw your whole thing off. And Talbot just had no respect for him. There was a point, HW Comer brings it up. There was a knee right after this, I think, where Cameron he keeps throwing and then it's just to set up a takedown. And it's just like he's reaching for the single leg. He's not driving like a power double or anything like that. But reaching down for the single leg is a bad move. And I wonder, I kind of want to go back and see if that's something that Cameron always does. And if it's a read that Talbot came into the fight with, because immediately when he started dropping down and reaching, he's eating knees. Like it didn't seem like he made that read in the fight. And if he did, that's really impressive because it's like he saw it once and made the read. And there was one where he cracked him up against the fence and Cameron just completely crumbles
backwards.
Yeah. And Talbot's just on him, man. And props to Cameron. That dude is tough as nails because there was a few times where it's like two things can happen when you get TKO'd, right? There is the option where you do get put out and your body's done and you don't have control over that. If you're out, you're out. Then there's times where it's too much, it's overwhelming, and you cover up and you stay down and they call a fight and you live to fight another day. Cameron did neither of those. You don't have control over not getting knocked out, but I don't know how he didn't. I don't know how his body stayed in this one, to be honest.
That was a lot of consecutive hits at like over and over. Like Talbot may have had the power advantage, but like he wasn't throwing anything with 100. It was like bink, 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 like one after the other. It was crazy.
One thing he did throw really hard, which was like it looked like some anime shit. This was sick too. Can we go back one picture actually, Rich? I wanted to mention this. There was a point where Cameron throws the body kick, Talbot catches it, and then throws the spinning wheel kick off of the caught leg and landed it. It's crazy, dude. So he catches the kick here. He spins around his right to land this kick. It's just right over the ear. And Cameron just eats it. I mean, come on.
On the temple, too. Right over the ear.
Yeah. The spot you definitely want to land that. And he just ate it. But there was 2 times where they were in the closed stance, and I think this might actually be it right here. And it ended up leading to the finish. But in the first round, it happened too, where Cameron would crash into him, and Talbot just goes, pow, just like the quick little anchor punch, Anderson Silva style, lead hook, and just sits him down the first time. Cameron's right back up. Second round, he lands it again. He does it so fast, you almost don't even see it. And he just stands there. It's literally like a little anime pose right after he lands it. And then Cameron goes down. He jumps on him. He swarms him on the ground. He was getting beat up. The stoppage is fine just because how much damage he took throughout the whole fight. But in a vacuum, I don't think it was a good stoppage just because Cameron literally had his feet on the hips, pushed him out, and was getting up when he stopped it.
He was doing what you're supposed to do to get out.
Yeah. He was just also getting hit.
Yeah, like and if he didn't also take a million punches before that, and Talbot didn't clearly seem like the superior fighter throughout the entirety of the Yeah, like you said, in a vacuum, that's not a good stoppage. But like you watch that fight entirety, it's like,
it's a bit much.
I got it. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, we don't really need to see more of this. But Talbot gets the win. This was a battle of the prospects. One of those fights where I see some people say, "Why are you having these guys fight each other now? Like, wait till they're late, like they get longer in the tooth and they're up in the top of the division." I'm here for it, dude. Conor McGregor,
Yeah.
Max Holloway, Islam versus Arman. Sometimes you want to see these two prospects go against each other because there's it also sets up like
just Islam and Artem. Like Artem Lobov was like the biggest.
no Arman Saryikian.
Okay. I thought you said Artem, like Artem Lobov. I'm like, what is going on right now?
Look, dude, when Islam fought Pantoja, and now they're both champs,
Okay.
Pantoja knocked him out, huh? But yeah, I like when prospects fight this early because they still have so much future. Despite Cameron struggling so much in this fight, there's things he can learn from this. Maybe not go to the well so much on that single leg, things like that, where there's a very real chance these guys fight again later in their career, and having this fight will make that fight better. You know what I mean? I like that stuff.
I felt like I feel like, to kind of comment on like what you said earlier, I feel like this might have been like a DJ versus Dominic Cruz kind of fight where one was clearly better at this weight class. I feel like you said, Cameron might be able to drop down a weight class and be just as good as Saaiman is, or Talbot is at this weight class. Yeah, at that bottom weight class.
Cameron at flyweight would be fun, dude. That'd be really fun. I'm not sure how tall he is, but Talbot, he's 5'8". That's a little tall for flyweight, but he might be able to do it. He looks small in this. Talbot, though, every once in a while you see a guy in a fight where they just hit their flow state immediately, and everything they're doing is working, and they're seeing everything coming. And that was this is a very good performance for Talbot, and the type of fights you want to be having when you're 7-0. In the UFC, you don't want to be learning the hard lessons.
He washed off that you don't start fast kind of narrative, so he kind of got that going for him. So it's smart. He's listening to like what people are saying about him in the respect that like he's improving on those things and not dwelling on them.
Yeah, and you could say like sometimes you don't want to listen to that stuff because you try to be someone you're not and you're forcing something. But then other times people can like very naturally address those criticisms and fit it into their game without trying to force, oh, they say I don't do this, I'm going to show them, and then you end up getting caught trying to take somebody down or something,
Exactly.
But yeah, this was a very fun fight. Excited to see both these guys. Excited to see Cameron come back from this one and see what he does. And obviously Talbot is someone to watch. We could move on to another person that I think is going to be someone to watch. Before this, we had Youssef Zalal versus Bily Quarantillo. Speaking of somebody that starts slow, Bily has kind of fallen into that trap, I think, a little bit. His last few fights, it hasn't really mattered because he comes on so strong eventually that he kind of turns into an avalanche and he breaks the guy. But it's a dangerous game because sometimes you can take that early offense and say, I'm fine dealing with all this. I'll turn it up after they're done. And then you can work off of it. But if somebody's sharp in that first moment and they don't ever let you get going, then you never even get out of first gear and you never get to impose that will. So it's a dangerous strategy. And it did not work in this one.
Not everyone can be Darren Elkins. Like you gotta be able to go in there and implement your game plan at some point on your terms as opposed to waiting for them to end. Like some people just don't end. Like they're just gonna keep going. Like that's the whole point.
That was the law, Yeah.
He
looked so sharp in this fight, man. So many cool weapons. He would do they would go to an open stance and he would step through with his lead leg past him and then throw that rear knee to the body and fade off the outside. Was so sick. I think he went back to it a little bit too much after he landed the first time. He was like, oh, that worked. I'm just going to keep doing that. But at the same time, Bily never really made him pay for it. So, I mean, why not keep going back to it? Lead hand was sick. The hooks, the knee was my favorite thing he did. Again, no real pictures of the grappling. There's a picture of the first rear naked choke attempt. Eventually, Zalal gets him down, takes his back. hits him with this choke, but it's over the chin. Here it's over the chin. It looked like he was about to tap though. Bily's hand was like, when you see someone, they're like fighting the choke and then they go.
Yeah, but that wasn't, his hand was stuck. So like if you watch it, his hand is stuck in between his legs. He's trying to rip it up and he's trying to rip it out.
Okay.
So it's like kind of like he's trying to pull it. And that's why you see if you watch just his hand slowly kind of creeping upwards like this the whole time.
I thought it was him about to tap.
Nah. He wasn't about to tap. I'm sure, like you said, the pressure on that was like massive, but I think he was too comfortable. I kind of get in this habit a lot too. Like at open mat, it happens all the time where like I'll get put in triangles and all these blood chokes. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll just sit here and wait and kind of like you said, wait for the other person to tire out. But like, bro, sometimes they're not just going to tire out. They're willing to let their arms explode and you're not going to be able to breathe. So you're going to need to do something other than just waiting there.
Yeah. And can we go back 2 pictures actually, Rich? When he had, this was cool because it doesn't really show it here, but while he was squeezing, eventually Bily reached up, grabbed the top hand, pulled it down. Youssef switches the grip to where he's at here, right? Kind of like a gable grip, but he's more on the wrist here. But then he digged, it doesn't have it here, but he digs with his chin and his face to the back of Bily's head to then push that forward into his forearm. And it's little things like that you don't always see people do. You're supposed to, but you don't always see people do it. So that was cool, but he didn't get the choke here, but then they separate and then he ended up getting another choke. And that time he tapped and he got the win. And he had a fun post-fight interview. Long time coming to come back to the UFC. And to have a showcase like that, he looked very good. Flow state early.
He was getting a lot of like high level competition right off the bat. And this kind of shows why. Like he had a lot of skills the whole time. Some people it's just a little bit too early. Like, you bring them in, they kind of think they know every single thing they're going to run into, and then they run into something they've never seen before, and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't prepared for this." Take some lumps, learn from it, and come back. And it seems like that's what he's done. So it's good seeing.
Yeah, well, like you see sometimes, like in a fighting game, there's like certain fighters that have like the sickest techniques that you can use in the fighting game. But if you don't know how to put them together correctly, like it's not going to work. And then as you get better, though, you know how to use those moves correctly. And just because you know how to throw these techniques doesn't necessarily mean you know how to put them together into a game plan in the fight. And it looks like he can now, and that's cool to see. But we could go ahead and move on to the last fight of the main card we're going to cover. Fernando Padilla versus Luis Pajuelo.
The boy Luffy was in the ring. The Pirate King was in the building.
Yeah. I love this dude. He's so much, win or lose, this guy's so much fun to watch. And he's another one. Coming into this fight, he had just lost. It's his first UFC loss against Kyle Nelson. And it's like, how is he going to come back from that? And it clearly was a good thing. Losing that fight was a good thing because he clearly addressed what he needed to and took that into this fight. And there's not a lot of pictures of this fight either, but immediately he's throwing leg kicks that are taking his legs out. I had to grab a screenshot of this because there's only one picture of not the finish. Front kick to the body was great. Pajuelo was trying to pressure hard, so the front kick to the body is perfect because they're crashing into the front kick and it's doing more damage versus kicking somebody who's moving away from you, right? It also creates the distance for you to land other shots. He had a cool step-in right hand that switched to an elbow last second that he cracked him with. The knees were great. The leaping knee where you just reach up, grab their head, pull it down, and then you disengage. Really cool weapons from a lot of different ranges.
Much better use of his range as well. Like he didn't get trapped. Like Kyle was definitely able to like use the distance against him in their fight, and I think, like you said, he came back and learned a lot and use that in this fight. Like his distance management the entire fight was exactly where it needed to be. He wasn't always so far away you could like never touch him, but he can't touch you. And the whole time he was like picking at him the whole time. Pop, 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 leg kick, pop, 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 head kick.
There was one point where he had his back up against the fence where Luis came in, cracked him with a good shot, but he rolls with it, fighting behind his lead shoulder. His chin is tucked. He eats it, turns, and then fires back with his own shot. And it was beautiful. And then here, it's the same entry. Luis is coming forward to land that same shot. And instead of just fighting behind his shoulder and staying there for the counter, he just intercepts him with this left hook from the same position. And it was beautiful because it's cocked, right? When you're fighting behind your shoulder, you just, bam, you bring that left hook over and he catches him. And the next picture will show how off balance it put Luis because he was throwing that right hand when he got hit. And then, so he comes in to throw the right hand. He gets hit with the left hook. He's overextended now. He looks back this way. And as he's coming back, Padilla just lands another straight left. He just throws a left hook, cocks it back, left straight, cracked him with it. It was beautiful, dude. It was such a good, like you said, understanding of not just the distance, but also just the dynamic and the motion of the fight. To be able to sit back and anticipate that same shot a minute after he landed it again, or the first time, catch him with it, sit back again, bam, left straight, drops him, goes to the ground. He starts going for the ground and pound. As Luis gets up, he sinks in the Dars. Gets him with the standing Dars.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time I saw a standing Dars. I can't think of any.
Well, I mean, when your limbs are like the length of a fucking tree trunk or tree branch, things like this long.
It was
or
crazy.
he could have darsed he could have darsed Herzog at the same time.
Yeah. One thing Lorosenko mentioned how quick the tap was, and normally Darses don't come that quick. I think he was also. It depends on when you apply the choke. If someone catches you with the choke and you're in a grappling exchange, you're aware that might be an option. But if you're getting beat up on the ground and you're like, oh my God, I'm getting beat up right now, I need to get up, and you're getting up in that kind of frantic energy, and then all of a sudden you're getting choked, it's like, I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't take my deep breath first. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It was just
also you're standing up, so you're closing the gap on your own neck, like you're trying to stand up. Whereas like a darce on the bottom, like you're kind of laying flat. You're not like pressing your own throat closed. So it's kind of like both at the same time, kind of makes it instantaneous.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. Good post-fight interview from Padilla. I think this dude's fun as hell. Very aware. Because one thing during the fight, I was like, wow, I haven't seen somebody use their weapons in a UFC fight this well since John Jones. I'm not going to say he looks like John Jones or he's like as good as John Jones, but one thing that John does is understand when to throw the front kick, when to throw the leg kick. There was one point where Padilla threw a leg kick, ended up in southpaw, right? Because he was orthodox. He throws his right leg kick to the outside, ends up this way because he fall through the kick, and then just goes bam, side kick to the body to scoot himself back and then be back at the range he wants to be. And I was like, dude, he's putting together all these different weapons from different angles, all these different looks. It does kind of look like that's something that John Jones really understands. And then in the post fight, he's like, yeah, I'm the Mexican John Jones. And I was like, oh shit. I like it, dude. I like it. You know?
Yeah,
Fun
he's
fight.
super positive. Good kid. Super fun to watch.
Very fun to watch. Really long for that weight class. And he had like a 7-inch reach advantage in this fight, and knows how to use it. And that's dangerous.
I never listen to those statistics. They're all BS.
Oh, yeah. They're all BS.
It's all just what they write down. Like I could go in and write down my reach is 80, and that's what they're gonna put on the card.
Yeah, it's weird. Every fighter in the UFC I've ever talked to has said, no, I've never been measured for my height or my reach, except for Alex Morono. Alex Morono one time corrected me, and he's like, when I first joined, I forgot the lady's name. He was like, there's a lady who used to measure all of us. She's not there anymore. I haven't seen her, but I definitely did get measured. He's the only person I've ever heard say that they got measured, except for Ribas. Ribas de Spain just got measured because he's a freak of nature, and they're like, we need to know what this guy's reach is. So that's the only two I could ever think of. But it looked like a 7-inch reach advantage.
He had a lot of inches.
Yeah. But we could move on. We're gonna breeze through these next ones probably. My boy Juicy J, Julian Erosa versus Ricardo Ramos. These guys are never in boring fights. Win or lose.
A good fight. That's a good fight.
These guys are fucking awesome, dude. Juicy J, sometimes he's one of those guys that it seems like he needs to get cracked to get going. A la Chris Lieben. And And I think Chris Lieben might have actually been judging this fight. I saw him cage side. I think he was judging this one. But he didn't have to work very hard because immediately the fight starts and Ricardo walks him to the fence and just lands this massive overhand right and drops him to a knee. There's a picture of the windup, and you're like, "There's no way that's gonna land. If that lands, that's gonna murder somebody." And then the next picture is it landing. Here's
You see it hit his head, and you see you see his head like the force that just generates through his skull, and you're like, holy shit!
Yeah.
How is he still alive?
And not only alive, but he drops to a knee and then immediately gets back up. And Ricardo just sprints at him and jumps and lands a flying knee right when he stands up. And then he stays up from that also.
Yeah, and
Like,
then there's
dude.
a moment. There's a moment when they come in clinch, and Rosa's like face is over his his left shoulder, and there's a camera shot where he's just like, oh.
Yeah, he's like,
that was a lot.
Also, shout out. Speaking of the moms that watch the show, shout out Juicy J. Erosa's mom is a subscriber.
Hey, there you go.
So this is right after that moment, right? Ricardo has him up against the fence after landing that flying knee. Erosa probably has no idea where he is. You could see it in his face, like, oh my god. And then he gets the double. He gets his hands clasped under the butt, a la what Henry Cejudo teaches and what Merab did to Henry Cejudo. He picks him up, turns him around, runs him across, and slams him. Erosa did a great job of getting the body triangle from guard because that's not an offensive move that you're going to do. But if you just got cracked with a Super Smash Bros. Punch and then a flying knee, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to lock them down in your guard. Do not let them pass because jiu-jitsu kind of starts fading a little bit when you're rocked. So it's like he might normally, maybe this guy never passes my guard, but I'm rocked, so maybe he does pass my guard. So I'm just going to lock him down. He ends up getting his feet on the hips, kicks him out like this. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
He
And
stands
that body
up.
triangle did something else. It because you're pulling him down, they're like doing this thing where they're trying to like break it, and they're trying to put all this pressure back into you. And I don't know if this was planned, but like as soon as he like broke the grip on that figure four, he like put his feet on the hips and used the fact that he was putting all that weight back to kind of like push and use that momentum to get all that distance on him. It was really smart.
That's a good call, actually. Yeah, because you're trying so hard to push off of the guy. Can we actually go back a couple pictures, Rich? Is there a picture of him in the body triangle? No, there isn't. Okay, well,
that's what you get.
Yeah, because if you're on top and you're locked down like that, you're right. You're trying to push away from the guy to create space to break that lock of their legs. So if you let go of that lock, they're now going to snap back a little bit and give you the space you need to get your feet on the hips to kick him away from you, like the next picture shows, because you really kicked him away. They get up.
It's like it's that momentum of like tug of war where you're like pulling on it and then you just kind of let go and they're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good call. And then they stand up. Ricardo throws a big right hand. He ends up down. He throws the spinning back elbow like he's known for because he has like 5 fucking knockouts with it. Erosa eats it, smiles, puts his hands up, and then immediately Ricardo shoots again for a great entry for a blast double. And Juicy's like, check this out, Dustin. And he fishes for that guillotine, and he gets it. He locked it in quick, man. It was nice. It was really nice. And he had to adjust his legs, too. It was cool.
And what's sneaky is I still don't know what in the world did he cut him with. Because that man got up after that choke with the nastiest gash across his forehead. And I'm like, what in the world did he get hit with? I watched that back like 8 times. I still was unable to find a single thing that hurt him.
I wonder if it was the impact on the hip bone or something on the shot.
Maybe.
Because like I didn't see anything land. It didn't look like anything landed.
I thought maybe that's why like Erosa kind of threw his hands up. He was like, ooh, I caught you on that one maybe. But I watched it back. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that double was crazy. He lifted them like they were like parallel to the floor for a second. And as soon as they landed, he had that guillotine snatched. And he even did the figure 4 on the back again initially to like secure that guillotine. And then as soon as he did, he put his feet where he needed to and just like extended so hard.
Yeah, because a lot of times guillotines, most of the times you have to adjust your hands and you have to adjust your legs to get your hips in the right position. And it's hard to do both at the same time. And sometimes if you're fighting the hand or you're correcting the hands, they might pass and hit you with like a Von Flue or get past your guard, and now you don't have the choke because the angle's wrong. And then if you're trying to just focus on the legs to trap them with your legs, then your hands aren't set, they're gonna slip out. So if you just figure for them, you lock them in place. Now you can adjust your hands, and then once you've adjusted your hands, then you switch to the proper guillotine leg trap. Beautiful, and he got the tap quick. It was a tight one.
Yeah, if it could have gone any longer, he might have slipped out with all that blood that was starting to pour out.
Yeah, lubing it up, huh? But yeah, Juicy J gets the win, gets the finish, has to go through the fire for it.
John Anik must have been somewhere in this building on that earpiece, because my God, did we all need to know that? Hey, did you know Juicy J just had a child? He just had a kid. Hey, did you know
important.
Juicy J just had a kid?
Yeah, it's important. 8 days ago. But yeah, you love to see it. New dad gets the win, gets the finish.
He was so happy afterwards. It was so cool.
I know, dude. I mean, dude, you go through the fire like that, you get dropped immediately in a fight, and then you eat a flying knee, and then all of a sudden you sub the guy a minute later. Pretty sick.
It was fun.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. We're skipping a fight. We're gonna go to Jarno Errens versus Stephen Nguyen. Banger.
Yeah, this was a great fight. This was an unexpected, unassuming, great fight.
Yeah, fantastic. Very cool. Errens has struggled in his UFC career so far, and Stephen was talking about how much he did tape study and figure out his holes and stuff. Errens struggled with leg kicks in his last fight, and immediately Stephen opens the fight with calf kicks, and the first one he lands looks gnarly.
Very first one.
And then he lands another one, and then he pretty much never got to land one again. Errens made the read, and then he started throwing his own leg kicks and tearing up Stephen's legs. Can we go back a picture, Rich, real quick? So he took the technique. He starts calf kicking Stephen. Stephen's leg is toast by the end of this fight. But another thing that he did that was really cool, and something that they tell you really kind of not to do, you're not really supposed to lead a combination with your rear uppercut, because it leaves you really open for a counter right. Like if you look at this picture, look how open he is on that left side. But some guys will find a way to make that technique work, and they know the opening, and it's usually a counter off of like a jab or a lazy parry or something like that, where they can go sick. I'll go right under, land this uppercut, and then because I'm open on this side, that also opens me up to land a nasty left hook immediately after the right uppercut. And he did that like 3 times. It was fucking awesome. And here's a picture of the right uppercut, and the next picture is the left hook right behind it. Fucking beautiful combination. Beautiful.
And I think this is what busted him up, I think, too. Just started painting the floor
split
with
his lip.
blood.
Yeah, split his lip open with that left hook. And it's really cool because there's so many rules of fighting, right? Like you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. This is the right way to do this. This is the counter for this. But then there's guys who will find a way to make the things you're not supposed to do work for them. And because it's something you're not supposed to do, most guys you face will not have any experience dealing with somebody doing it, because most people just aren't doing it. I don't know what happened with the slides right now. They're all white.
You don't want white?
Just a little bright on the old eyes. Yeah, really cool combination from Errens. And from that point on, he really just started working. Beautiful combinations, cool knees, the high kick, the leg kicks. They kept talking about his Dutch style, which really showed. It was a Dutch style showcase. But Stephen was in it the whole time, honestly. Because by the end of the fight, Errens, his face was fucked up too. But it was mostly from kind of the jab, I think, really worked for Stephen throughout the fight, but he couldn't really get much on after that. He was forced to switch southpaw later on in the fight because his leg was so jacked up, and you could tell he's not very comfortable fighting from southpaw, and it kind of just left him open for more shots. But what a performance from Errens. This was a banger, dude. Someone to watch.
Like you said, he made that first read, that initial one, because his leg was bad. Those first 2 shots, that it looked like somebody took a baseball bat, just left a giant welt on the back of his calf.
Immediately.
And then after that, he was olaying every single kick that was thrown at him, checked a few of them.
Yeah.
Never got hit after that.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because Stephen was trying to lead his combinations with it, and he wasn't really setting it up. It was just he's susceptible to low kicks, I'm going to low kick him, and didn't really try to earn the low kick. I don't know. He never really got to put it together like the way Errens did. And sometimes it's hard to put things together when the other guy is having so much success putting things together, But yeah, very good performance there from Errens. HW Comer says, I hate that Fortis coach. During the fight, he overloads the fighter by spamming all these useless commands, and during the break, he gets angry. Like, how is that going to help, dude? I hate him. Yeah, I always try to err on the side of caution with that because like coaches know their fighters and they know what works for them. But then there's other guys, there's times where you see a coaching style from a certain coach that carries over no matter who they're cornering. And it's
Correct,
like,
yeah.
I get if you're trying to implement that style to your team, but you really should be recognizing the individual fighters at the end of the day and what works for them. And like, I don't know the relationship, but I have noticed that too. But yeah, Errens is fun. He's very fun. Just give him strikers. I don't really want to see him grapple. I want to see this dude kick. And he said, "It ain't much if it ain't Dutch." I fucking like that. That's
that
tight.
was a good saying. It took him a little while to get it out there, but it was still fun to hear.
He struggled a little bit, and I thought I was going to too once I started saying it, but we got it done.
You know what was fun? It was nice throughout the whole night. Like commentary was a breath of fresh air all night.
Dude,
Like
I've been
Laura
waiting
and
for.
Paul did such a good job compared to like Dom and Bisbing or DC and Dom. Like it was so nice.
It
so
was.
Good.
I really like. For a long time, my favorite has been Fitzgerald for play-by-play. Bisping and Felder. I thought that was a great team. Bisping has kind of lost the sauce a little bit. I don't know if he's showing up drunk or what the hell's going on with him, but it seems like he is.
He's got
but
10
Felder,
years, what it is.
yeah, Felder is so good at the post-fight interviews that I think he has to be there, even if he's not in the booth. Just have him be the interview guy because he asks things about the fight. Hey, this happened. I noticed this in the first round. How did you overcome that? How did that feel? Things like that. It was he's good, dude. He's really good. And Senko is incredible.
Senko was killing it.
She's always great. She kills it at these interesting moments, and she'll say something. She's really good at seeing something, saying it, and then it happens like 30 seconds later, and you're like, nice.
Yeah.
That's good. That's someone good to have in the booth. And then Fitzgerald as the play-by-play guy is so good because it's fine to have color commentators, but sometimes when there's 3 commentators, the play-by-play guy never gets to get a word in because the color commentators are just chatting. But Fitzgerald is so good at keeping with what's happening in the fight and at least making it known so that if you walk to the other room when the fight's going on, you still know what's happening because Fitzgerald is doing the play-by-play, what you're supposed to do. But yeah, it's a good call out. And actually, HW Comer says, did you catch the double elbow during the prelims? Felder had some good jokes. With that, thank you for the segue, HW Comer. We'll cover the last fight we're going to cover. It was André Lima.
Fight of the night, guys. The best fight.
It was André Lima versus Igor Severino. Look.
You don't need to worry about that name anymore.
Look. This fight, going into it, there's some funny things. Senko said at the beginning of the fight.
Dude.
I rewatched the fight this morning.
Listening to the commentary is hilarious knowing what happens.
Yeah, so André Lima versus Igor Severino. At the start of the fight, Senko says, I cannot wait for this fight. This fight's gonna be crazy. And with hindsight, you're like, well, you're not wrong there. Because these are 2 undefeated flyweights, my favorite division. And they're coming at each other and just cheating the whole fight. Both of them. The
whole fight. They were abusing the cage, bro.
Dude,
they were abusing that cage.
But on top of that, it was also a fun scrap. And Rich, I'm gonna need you to we're gonna have to work in tandem on these pictures. But the fight was very fun. Lima is landing this jab. He's landing low kicks. He's landing knees. Severino's having a hard time getting in a little bit, but his entries for takedowns were fantastic. They were really fun. And every time he would take Lima down, Lima would do the correct thing and make a scramble so that he could get back up. They were both landing really cool trips in the clinch, back and forth with each other, but then they'd pop right back up. It was a fun fight, just sprinkled with some cheating.
There was also these really cool moments where, like, I think it was like one of them threw like a front kick, like a teat, and like not like a block or a move. It was like this weird thing where they kind of like just kind of parried it off to the side a little bit, and that little parry made them almost fall over, and it like moved into a takedown. It was so sick. And then they would grab everything all the time.
Yeah, so we can start going through the pictures, Rich. So early in the first round, here's a cool trip. Severino has Lima's kind of almost like a back body lock, but he doesn't fully have the back. And what he does is he laces his right leg. You can see it on top of Lima's right leg, and he has that laced, and he's got the figure 4 around his own other calf. And Lima's trying to get his leg free, and by doing that, eventually he's so focused on the knee that Severino says, "Okay, I'm ditching this leg lace, and I'm just going to kick it forward and kick out your other leg from behind." And he takes him down with it. Was awesome. It was such a cool trip. But then Lima's right back up, and we can go to the next picture, Rich. Then they get back up. Lima is on the fence.
That's a crazy place to put your left hand.
Dude, Lima's has him up against the fence. He reaches around his back, grabs the fence. You can see it there with his left hand. Pulls himself into the fence with that to land a knee. And you're like, dude. But then Severino, as he does this, kicks out his planted leg to trip him again. And I think there's a picture of that too. There might be. Beautiful. What a cool foot sweep. It was just so much cool technique in this mixed in with the cheating. Sometimes cheating leads to cool things. And so we can keep going.
Both cheating. It's not just one. So we're not mad at either one of them. They're both shitheads.
Yeah, exactly. And if in the words of Tim Elliott, if you ain't cheating, you're not trying. So we can kind of go through these pictures. There's some cool scrambles on the ground to get back up. Here's he jumps guillotine. Lima jumps guillotine here. Very cool sequence. Jumps guillotine. Severino gets out of it. He switches to omoplata. And there should be a picture of the omoplata, Rich. Beautiful. Severino is doing the right thing. His left arm is in the omoplata, but his right hand is in front of his own hip. So it's his hip is blocking it from getting pushed behind his back, right? What Lima wants to do here is sit up so he can torque the shoulder. So to do that, he reaches up with his left hand and he grabs the fence and pulls himself up into the sitting position. And the corner of Severino is like freaking out at this point.
Losing it.
Tailloni comes over, smacks his hand out, says, "Don't do that." And Lima says, "Okay, can I hammer fist him in the back of the head?" And in this position, he does that. And I think there's a picture here of the hammer fist in the back of the head. And then again, Severino's corner is going crazy. So he pulls himself up for the omoplata from the fence and then hits him in the back of the head with one shot. Tailloni's like, "Dude, you need to stop. Like, that's not okay." Doesn't do anything about it. Whatever. The fight continues.
Because it's Tailloni.
He uses the omoplata to get up. They go back and they start trading. And this is where it really got fun because Severino would come in with these big shots and Lima was just hitting him with these short counters, just meeting him in the middle. It was beautiful. And I think this is where I think the next picture should show. So this picture here, they're up against the fence. Severino throws a knee, and what does Lima do? He hits the foot sweep on the planted leg, and he trips him. And it's like both these guys are landing these cool trips. And here was the double elbow. They both go for the upward elbow.
Step in at the same
Lima's,
time. Just bop.
Yeah, but Lima's lands heavy, and you can see Severino's on skates. His feet are in mud. He's like kind of freaking out a little bit. Some cool grappling exchanges go down. Paul Felder to HLB Comer's comment hits him with the double elbow from the double rainbow all the way across the sky. I mean, just beautiful. Great work by Felder.
And then another one of these hindsight moments where they go, "Today's going to be a good day." And then immediately after that.
So end of round one. Severino pokes Lima in the eyes. He throws a leg kick, and then to frame off, to push himself off to get out of the pocket, pokes him in the eye. Tailloni's like, "Hey man, watch the fingers." Tailloni's working overtime. Here in the second round, you can't see it in the picture, but you can tell what's happening. And what's happening is Severino landed a takedown. Lima's on his back. Lima's trying to get to the fence so that he can wall walk back up. And to do that, to get back into that seating position, he reaches up, grabs the fence, and pulls himself up to the seated position. And Taione's like, hey, man, you really got to stop doing that. And at this point, Felder's like, dude, you need to take a point the next time. Like, this is not. He's like, he's already given him too many warnings. But he gets up.
Too many hard warnings, too.
Too many hard warnings. He gets up. Severino goes in for another takedown. And you might be saying, what is this picture? Why would you even put this picture in? What's happening here is Severino is biting the back of the tricep of Lima's left arm, and Lima is complaining about it to Taione, who is just like, that's a warning. And then he eventually circles out. He gets the overhook to circle to get his back against the fence. Severino goes for the takedown again. Lima says, I'm not getting taken down again. And he grabs the fence to stop himself from getting taken
while
down.
staring Taione in his soul.
Yeah. I mean, look at this cage. Yeah. And at this point, Felder's like, he's doing it again. He's got it. And then eventually Taione stops the fight because Lima's complaining again about the bite. And he's like, I don't care about grabbing the fence right now because I just got bit. Like, we need to stop this fight. Taione does. I mean, it's just a crazy fight. It's just so much happening in this fight. To be honest,
I think he even stopped it for the cage grab. I don't even think he stopped it for the fight. And then he looked at his arm and was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, maybe. I would not be surprised. So, yeah, they stopped the fight. Taione's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You just grabbed the fence. Yeah. He grabs the physician. Physician comes in. Physician looks at it. And you can hear, because the commentary booth is like, I want to hear. So they stop talking, and you can clearly hear them talking about it. And he's like, from that position, he definitely could have bitten him. We don't see it on the camera because his face is buried there. But there's a bottom and the top of the bite mark. That's not going to happen on accident. Lorosenko was talking about how sometimes in grappling, sometimes like an arm will get stuck in your mouth, or your like a bicep will get stuck in your mouth from like a crossface or something. If it catches you at the wrong time and there's so much pressure, your mouth is stuck open and you're like, I can't even close my own jaw. But that's not gonna happen if you're on back mount or back body lock and you're the one that's pressing your face in. There's no pressure coming back to you. This is 100% intentional. Here is a picture, the best shot I could grab of the bite. Doesn't show much, but it does show that he's biting down at least. And then there's the complaint. And then they call the fight, and they're like, what? No warning? They're just going to call the fight? And then they show the bite, and you're like, yeah, that's the right call. That bite shows teeth marks through the mouth guard. How did he do this with the mouth guard?
I think what happened is he put the mouth guard in his mouth and like shoved it in like the back. And like,
could be
like he had intention here. Like he's like, I'm going to hurt you. And also, like you were saying, the commentary booth was hella quiet. So if you really listen to it, I watched it back this morning. If you really listen to it, when they call off the fight, the other corner, Lima's corner's in there, and they're complaining. And their complaint was, well, look at everything that was going on in the fight. Look at all the cheating that the other guy
you mean
was
Severino's
doing.
corner?
Yeah, and then Taione was like, does that make biting okay? And then everybody just went silent. Yeah, everyone just goes silent.
Because that's the thing, right? 100% my theory on what happened and why he did this is because of all the cheating that Lima was doing throughout the fight, right? All the fence grabs, the back of the head shot, all this stuff. He was frustrated. And sometimes when you're frustrated, you do this. It's not the right thing to do. I'm not condoning it. But I think that's where the line of thinking was, at least if I'm trying to come up with it. Yeah. One of the funniest things I've ever seen, though, is Taione walks across to Severino after they call the fight. He's like, you bit him. And then Severino goes, no. It's like, so funny.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. So yeah, they call the fight.
He said like a while ago, Taione is like the old dad of the referees.
Yeah.
He's like, come on.
Yeah, you bit him. I mean, just crazy, dude. But so yeah, they call the fight. Post-fight, actually, there was I'm trying to see if I can find it. There was an interview that Severino did before the fight where he said, I don't want to bite off more than I could chew coming into the UFC. Hilarious. And you're like, you just can't write this stuff. And then he comes out and bites off more than he could chew, literally. But
and then Dana gives him a bite bonus for saying.
So yeah, after the fight, it comes out. There should be a picture here, Rich, for it. According to André Lima's manager, Lucas Lutkus, Dana White told him after the fight he will give Lima the first "I got fucking bit" bonus. So he did. HW Comer says fight bonus of the night. Hey, Mike Tyson did. Happens to the best of them. It's kind of crazy to cut him over this. People do eye pokes and all these crazy shit all the time. It's a fight.
Eye pokes are intentional though.
So they cut Severino. In theory, sometimes they are, right? They cut Severino after the fight. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you do cut him, maybe you don't. I don't really know. I don't have a strong opinion on that, if I'm being honest, because it's crazy. I mean, you can't bite people.
You got to punish him some
people.
way, and how else do you punish him other than cutting him? You're gonna give him like
true
a top tier fighter who's like hella good, who you expect to beat him, but then if he wins, he gets a benefit from it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's maybe you do just cut him. So after Lima got the bonus, he gets a tattoo of the bite, and it says, "I got fucking bit" bonus, because that's what Dana told him. And then Dana posted on his story and says, "I was gonna give him 25K. Now I'm giving him 50K. This is awesome." It's just crazy, dude.
I would have done the same thing, bro. I would have immediately gotten that tattooed on my arm.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a move.
What a move, dude. Oh, and actually, I'm gonna share my screen really quick because I found it. Just so in case you thought I was lying.
We always think you're lying, Will.
20-year-old Igor da Silva after Dana White Contender Series 63 win. "I don't want to bite off more than I can chew" in UFC debut. I mean, you just can't make that shit up, dude. It's too good.
The WWE is over there taking notes.
But dude, you take notes from this, you can't replicate shit like this. It's just insane. But yeah, I mean, what a fight. It was something to behold for sure. The best part of this whole card was this for sure. But that's kind of it for the card. I guess we can move into moment of silence for the fights we lost. We lost Stephanie Luciano versus Shauna Bannon. What a bummer. We lost Davey Grant versus Cody Gibson. That fight actually would have been fucking awesome. I love Davey Grant. Muhammad Usman was supposed to fight Chris Barnett, Beast Boy. I really like Chris Barnett. Instead, he had to pull out, so we got Parkins, and Parkins beat Usman. It always sucks when you take the short notice fight, and then the guy who took it on short notice beats you, and you're like, Bily was supposed to fight Miranda. Miranda fell through, he withdrew, so Bily takes on Zalal, and then he also loses. Edmen was supposed to fight Dusko Todorovic. Would have been a fun fight, actually. Dusko pulls out. He gets AJ Dobson, and AJ Dobson almost beats him as the short notice guy, but Edmen stays for the course, and he does this thing. Carl Williams, same thing. He took the short noticed Justin Tafa instead of Junior Tafa. He gets the win. And then Luciano was supposed to fight Julia Palastri, and she got dengue fever and had to pull out. That's crazy.
Whatever that means.
That's crazy. HB Comer real quick says, "When I was little and fighting with my brother, biting was a valid fighting tactic." Look, if it's a street fight,
and then you got grounded.
And then you get grounded. I saw Michael Chiesa, I think, was like, Severino's got that dog in him, but it's just DOG, not DAWG.
Not
all right, but that's the moment of silence. Those are the fights we lost. Really only care about one of them. Davey Grant would have been a good fight, but and then we got bonuses. We got bite of the night for André Lima for his bite. Shout out to the UFC for leaning into this and posting this on their Instagram. Amazing. Padilla got one for his knockout. He deserved one. And I think the last. I
don't like giving children $50,000 though.
Yeah. Performance of the night for Payton Talbott as well. I thought Juicy J. Erosa should have gotten one too, but what are you gonna do? He didn't. Errens and Stephen Nguyen got fight of the night. I think that was deserved. That was probably the best fight of the card. Yeah, that was UFC Vegas 89. So yeah, that's the wrap up for that. The next thing we're going to talk about briefly, your boy Andrew Toste has got a fight coming up May 18th May 18th. Gilbert Melendez and Scott Coker, you may have heard of the two, got together. We have a picture of them. Scott Coker's in the Scrap Pack hoodie.
Hell yeah,
Fucking
dude.
awesome, dude.
That
How
photo
sick
shoot
is
was
this picture,
sick.
dude? It's so sick. They got together. They're putting on a pro fight card. Look, Scott Coker has always been dedicated to the Bay Area and specifically the South Bay in San Jose, which for me and you is fucking sick. Most people watching, maybe they don't care, but like this is the local MMA scene for us, and it's always been very good. A lot of that is due to Scott Coker and his, Strike Force, Bellator always had events here in San Jose, and so he's back with Gilbert Melendez, who's the San Francisco guy. They got Fight Night at the Tech going. It's MMA, Muay Thai, and grappling, right? I think.
I don't think they have any grapplings like listed, but I think they're shooting for stuff.
I thought there
But
was
they're
three.
definitely doing amateur MMA, they're doing pro MMA, and they're doing pro Muay Thai.
Okay, I thought there was a
Yeah.
third sport on there too. But I think we have the poster in the next slide. Yeah, okay, so kickboxing. They're doing kickboxing,
Kickboxing,
MMA,
yeah.
and Muay Thai. You got your boy Daniel Compton on there, Jessica Rose Clark. This fight, there's like 20 fights on this, by the way. It's fucking awesome.
Already.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's gonna be so much fun. You got your boy Toste on the card. I think the next slide will have most of the fights. And there he is. Look at that in the top right. Looking
Yeah.
luxurious with that hair, dude. Come on.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see like how many different connections I have on this card. Like just on that same poster, if you look all the way over to the left, I fought Moses Gomez for my
Oh
second
dang.
amateur fight. Joe Throw is on this card. I've been on the card a card
Oh,
with
Joe
him. Like,
throws on it?
yeah, they just put him on. I think it was like yesterday. He's fighting Ducharme.
Oh, hell yeah. Did
They're
he go
on the
pro?
card. Stewart's on the card. I've been on a few cards with him. My little brother, my little protege, Isaiah is going to be on the card, so that's really cool. Something special. It's really cool. Like you said, Scott Coker is like the godfather of like San Jose MMA.
Yeah.
It's everyone loves to talk about how much they love Nick and Nate Diaz, how much they love the Scrap Pack, and it's like
He did that.
you don't realize that without Scott Coker, there is no KJ Noons versus Nick Diaz. There's no
Yeah.
there's
Paul
no
Daly.
there's no fights at the HP. Like all of this stuff that with Strike Force never would have happened. Like
No.
it's such a great opportunity to fight for somebody that like he is the Dana White of our area, like without a
Yeah. 100%. 100%. It's really cool to see him and Gilbert Melendez teaming up, because Gilbert Melendez was a champion for him in Strike Force. So like it's just cool to see and keeping it local. I think that's what Scott Coker should do. Is it's so hard to make a global MMA organization. Strike Force went under, UFC bought it, Bellator went under, PFL bought it. It's so hard to do it globally and compete with the UFC. But if you look at someone like a company like Ryzen, who's just very much based in Japan, they haven't really tried to expand past that, and they're very successful there. And it's like if Scott Coker just stays with the Bay Area, it's like, dude, he can put something really cool together. And just sometimes you try to grow too much, and you can't support it. So it's cool to see him back at it shortly
Yeah.
after. What, it's like a month after PFL takes over Bellator, and he's like, all right, cool,
Yeah.
I'll just go do this. It's
Which
so
also
sick.
shows that he wasn't wasting any time either. Like he knew that something was happening and like immediately
Yeah.
went into like what's the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Is Thoreau, is he pro now? Or is he still
Yeah,
amateur?
this will be his or no. He did his pro debut on the Dragon House card 2-3 weeks ago, and that's why they
Hell yeah.
just announced him on this one.
Hell yeah. That's sick. That dude's a savage, bro. He's a fun guy to watch.
He's also really cool, like works with kids all the time. He's one of those dudes that like you look at him and he looks like somebody that would probably stab you, but then you go up to him and he's like one of the nicest like human
That's
beings I've
awesome.
ever met.
And what a good nickname, huh?
Yeah.
His nickname's so good, dude. Cutthroat, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's sick. That's gonna be fun, dude. Your boy's gonna be there. It's gonna be sick. But yeah, so give Toasty a follow. Check him out on May 18th.
Link for the tickets is in the bio of the Instagrams.
We'll put it on the description. It's not there now, but we'll get the description link up as well. So that's it for this week. Next week, we have We'll probably cover our boy Landry Ward has got a fight in LFA 180 on Friday the 29th, so we'll probably cover that fight. And then we also have UFC Atlantic City, Blanchfield versus Furo. Co-main is Luque versus Buckley. I actually really like this poster. I'm usually very critical of UFC posters. I think this one's actually pretty sick.
Put more effort into this one than 300.
Well, 300 is no effort. It just says UFC 300. I think the next picture has some of the fights, Rich. Yeah, I don't know about the bout order. This is just per ESPN bout order as of now, but sometimes things change. Let's see. Blanchfield Furo is a good fight. Luque versus Buckley could be devastating because Luque's brain bleed is scary. You got my boy Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva. That's going to be a tough one. We got Ruzi Boev is back against Dumas. He's probably going to win that fight. Bill Aljo is my boy against Nelson. That's a fun fight. Chidi Njokwani versus McKee. I don't know what they're doing putting McKee up there against Njokwani. But I think fight of the night on this one is probably going to be Nate the Train Landwehr versus Jamal Emmers. That's a very fun fight.
I just want to see him pre and post fight. I just put a microphone in front of his face and let him talk because he is the funniest human I've ever met in my life.
It's so funny, dude. I love that guy. That's actually a decent card for a fight night. It's crazy because that's what happens when they go somewhere and they have to justify ticket sales. They have to actually put together some fun fights. But that is it for the episode. Andrew, thank you for filling in for Ramiro once again on short notice, just like your whole career of fighting. And if you guys didn't know, this episode is produced by Rich the Casual, Richard Bustos. Did we hit? I don't know if we hit. We are at.
I'll hit somebody.
We need 3 subscribers till 12,000. So let's get it. 3 subscribers.
Somebody go get their mom right now.
Get the moms on there. Hit subscribe. But thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Story of the Fight.